Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. We have a lot to get into today. A little later in the program, we may get into the Pirates and what their acquisitions have been, and also Pitt, Penn State in the bowl games. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is a stunning Steelers loss in Cleveland. Rich Walsh, my colleague here at KDK, was there all day, drove back, and we're talking about it right now. Rich, I don't know about you, but just stunned with the way this game started. Shedeur Sanders is throwing the ball, it seems like every time you want. To me, I thought they were going to just try to run it, play it conservatively. They came out aggressively. The Steelers did not do that, and they trailed 10-0. And as much as you say that's, a lot of people, well, you can overcome that. They didn't overcome it. They didn't score a touchdown today. So talk about the start. And did you?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously disappointing. I mean, he was throwing ducks out there. I don't know if you noticed. No spirals at all. And Shedeur Sanders is beating him 10-0. It was a very conservative game plan, I think, by the Steelers today. I think they were too worried about Myles Garrett, and he even said that, than winning the football game. I know Aaron Rodgers said after the game that, their game plan was exactly the same as it was the first time around where they won that game. I kind of disagree. There's some things that I could point to in that game that I would have changed. That fourth down play. I know we're going to talk about it, but I don't know if I would go to the end zone with Scotty Miller on 4th and 1 when they could have maybe got the first down and then see what happens. And, I guess in hindsight, it's 2020, but there's some points in that game that were the Steelers, that were very critical, and the Steelers lost. Had 9 targets to MVS. It just goes to show you that they needed number 2 receiver because, that was the one thing I know you and I talked about a long time ago was what happens if he gets hurt, right? What happens if DK Metcalf gets, I know it just,
time. I've been saying that all along. I would have thought, at the end of the season, I didn't want George Pickens on a long-term deal, but what I wanted was him to be here so that he could take advantage of the fact he had 1 year to prove himself, stay out of trouble, and put up yardage, which he's done, and he'll be a guy who's going to make a lot of money this year. So they never solved that issue, and you didn't expect a suspension like this.
No.
The DK Metcalf, but let's talk about that because it had a big impact on this game. Whenever you don't have him, and then on top of that, Calvin Austin gets injured, you're down to basically guys you just brought in this year. Late in the season, as a matter of fact. They may have names you recognize, but they were not thought of as guys you can use in go-to situations. So I think the Metcalf suspension had a huge impact in this game, and I think it could be again next week.
No question about it. Even the guys in the locker room had talked about it. It's a totally different game when you take your #1 threat away, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, Adam Thielen's a good receiver. On the other side, MVS is a good receiver. Well, we're talking about a third receiver now, essentially, in this offense that you're down to 2 third receivers. Why didn't they use Pat Freiermuth more in the game early on? And they didn't do it. Back to the George Pickens. Look, I'm with you on the whole George Pickens thing. They would have been a much more dynamic offense if they had him, but he didn't fit in the locker room. And the Steelers made it abundantly clear he didn't fit with their team, and they had to trade him for whatever they could get for him. And I know it's going to look like a mistake, and it already does, but I don't know if he would have had 1,500 yards in this offense.
Maybe not.
There's not enough balls to go around.
If I had told you at the beginning of the season that George Pickens would have 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, almost 100
receptions. I think the Steelers knew that, Bob, though.
But he would not be suspended. And then you brought in a guy who you gave $150 million to, who has far fewer yards and touchdowns, and he was suspended. You would have thought it'd been role reversal anyway.
And you had to give up a second-round draft pick to get him. So, doesn't look great right now.
I say that, and I understand. They know their locker room better than me. What I'm saying is I just would have liked them to take advantage of the fact that he should have been a motivated guy entering the final year of a contract, and he was looking to catch.
I would have liked to see them go out, and if they're going to trade George Pickens, go out and get a legit #2 guy. They had opportunities to do it, and they didn't.
All right, let's talk about Myles Garrett. You brought that up, and I thought it's interesting. He said what he said. Listen, they know how to deal with Myles Garrett. They played him earlier this year. He got no sacks. But the thing about when you do this, when you're game planning for a guy like that, that means you're keeping guys in. That means there are only 3 receivers in play as eligibles. And when that happens, you got guys like Denzel Ward and Tyson Campbell. These guys are playing really good shutdown, man-to-man defense. And there were times today when no other options were available. I would have liked to have seen more tight ends like you.
Yeah, they went out to the flat too much. Look, I'm not an offensive coordinator, but I felt like some of those plays, you knew what was going to happen. To the Kenny Gainwell, Jonnu Smith a couple times.
Almost got intercepted.
Yeah, almost got intercepted. Speaking of interceptions, Herbig dropped that big interception that he would have walked in a touchdown. I know I'm getting off track here, but I'm talking about the offense. I still don't understand, and I was saying it in the press box, why aren't they using the middle of the field more? You saw when they did, it was successful.
Especially
but they
their linebacker was hampered.
Yeah.
Schlesinger was hobbling along with one leg.
Number 49, and Aaron Rodgers took advantage of that to Freiermuth the first time when he saw him.
Right.
But I would have utilized the middle of the field a lot more. And I know we've been stressing this for the last 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, it's not a problem this year. It's been a problem for the last couple years for the Steelers, and they still refuse to use the middle of the field more than they don't use it enough, is what I'm trying to say.
All right, let's talk about specific things, because you brought up the 4th and 1. I think that was a big, every time you make a decision, it's about the execution of the decision. If that turns into a touchdown, people are saying, what a brilliant play call. It wasn't, but it didn't seem like the prudent thing to do at the time. 4th and 1, they had success on a tush push. They sequenced off of it. That play call surprised me only because it was Scotty Miller. Nothing against him, except I wouldn't have done that with Campbell, who was red hot all day on him.
I talked to Scotty Miller after the game, and he said they liked the look. They had one-on-one coverage. He wasn't the first option, but they liked it, and they liked the matchup, and he did have him beat. The problem there is I think it was a bad throw by Rodgers. It was 3 feet out of bounds. There's no way Scotty Miller, the shortest receiver on the team, is going to catch that, is going to make that play. But look, I'm a gambler. I like taking risks, and I like taking shots like that because then you could kind of put the game away. They did it in Detroit, and they somehow turned things around in Detroit. And I thought they were still kind of in this, even up until the end. I thought they were going to score there on that last drive. And I know we're going to get into it. Maybe you don't look at MVS's way 3 straight times.
I wouldn't have done that because I think Gainwell was open on one of them. But
on the first down, so was Freiermuth.
I thought Cleveland was being Cleveland at the end because they had the ball after the Steelers went for a 4th down and did not convert. Steelers had 3 timeouts, had to use them all, but they never really even tried. And I thought at that point, I remarked upstairs to the guys we were watching it with, you watch, Rodgers is going to go right down the field and they're going to have a shot in the end zone to end the game. And I thought they would convert. They didn't do it. So that's how this game ended. The Steelers fall to 8 and
9 and 7.
9 and 7, and that means 8 and 8 Baltimore.
Hey, they have a winning record, Bob.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be good enough if they don't win.
No.
But that sets up this one-game opportunity here coming up. We'll talk about that when we come back. Ravens come here after winning in Green Bay and doing it with a run game that was outstanding. What could we expect Sunday or Saturday whenever they announce this game at Acrisure Stadium? We'll talk about it coming up. Well, the NFL loves these sort of end-of-year matchups, especially for the division championship. There'll be 2 of them this coming weekend. You're going to have Tampa Bay and Carolina in one of them, and then, of course, the one here, Baltimore, which was on life support, I thought, coming into this weekend, needed 2 things to happen, and they did. We'll take on the Steelers. The Ravens are 3-point favorites to start this week. But, Rich, I want to talk about a couple of things. Injuries always play a factor. We don't know about Lamar Jackson in this game. He may or may not play. He's had a back contusion. He's had a lot of injuries this year. We don't know about T.J. Watt. I would expect he would, but now Darnell Washington is out with a broken arm. That affects how they play that, heavy system that they like to get in there. Your thoughts on this matchup going into it, knowing the Ravens are favored?
It worries me only because the Steelers already beat the Ravens in Baltimore, and I usually think that they split the games, right? So I'm not a statistics guy here, and I'm not trying to use that, but I think I don't like this matchup. I don't like the way the Steelers played today. I don't like how things went exactly the opposite, how the Steelers needed it to go. They could have wrapped it up on Saturday, and I thought they were going to, but then when I saw Malik Willis was starting, that's what worried me a little bit.
Although he played well.
He did play well, except for they brought in Tune, and then he throws that interception, that kind of changed the game. So, the Ravens get a must-needed win, and they're playing for their playoff hopes. They need to do what they need to do, and the Steelers still control. So if the Steelers win or tie, they're automatically in. That's the most important thing. But now they blew their opportunity. It's so disappointing, and you could feel it up there. You go there, and you can't beat a 3-win team. They're a 3-win team. I don't care. You could throw records out the door or whatever. They're 1-6-1 in their last 8 games. That's inexcusable. The only win was Ben Roethlisberger there in 2021. How do they not win? How do they not get up for the Cleveland Browns? I'm not saying they're looking past the Browns, but why do the Browns have their number in Cleveland the last 8 years?
I just think it's
times.
Defense. Their offense, I knew their offense wasn't that good. I came away unimpressed.
Yeah, but Shador completed some passes early on. And
that one, the fan, it was a duck also. You're talking about ducks. There were a lot of ducks
but there were 3 Steelers right there.
They didn't make
and
the
there was
play.
a little
It should have been intercepted.
Yeah.
I came away unimpressed with Shador Sanders. I came away very impressed, as I often do, with their defense. So I knew, if the Steelers could only score 2 or 3 touchdowns, or 2 would have won the game. Instead they get none. And the way they moved it, they couldn't even get to the red zone. They had all sorts of problems. So it's interesting how this is going to go. But the last time they played, the Ravens, I thought, probably got jobbed out of a touchdown. Now, you can argue this, and it's been debated back and forth. Isaiah Likely.
How many feet?
Joey Porter Jr. made a really good play to get back over there and not stop on that, and he created that opportunity. But a lot of people would tell you, and people that I know in the replay business say that should have been a touchdown over the middle in the end zone. However, the Steelers won that game. Go back to last year in the wild card. That's what concerns me. When they ran the ball and they went right at the Steelers have been good at times against run games and have been bad. So it's gonna come down to that, in my view.
And they were really bad, obviously, in that wild card game. They had to play the Ravens back-to-back, and you knew what you were going to get with Derrick Henry, and you saw what Derrick Henry did yesterday. I mean, that guy's unstoppable when he gets on a roll, and he did it to the Steelers already. I know they shut him down. They kind of shut him down the last time. I know he got a lot of his yards late, and he ended up with 90-plus yards, but he's still Derrick Henry. He's a hard guy to stop, hard guy to tackle, especially late in games, and that's a big concern. But the Steelers have been really good even today at stopping the run. I forget what game it was after the Buffalo game. They kind of really focused on that, and they're a much different defense. They only gave up 13 points to a bad Browns team. But they only gave up 13 points. This one falls on the offense for me. If you can't score them more than 13 points, I don't even know if you deserve to be in the postseason.
It's far different than last week when I thought their offense carried them. First 3 quarters, they just dictated terms, put together long drives against a team that was desperate in Detroit, which was the 3rd out of 3 games. They thought, okay, they're on a little bit of a roll here. Go to Cleveland, wrap it up. And here's the thing that bothers me if I'm them. Now you're going to have to play a game that's going to be a bludgeon kind of game. They're going to go back and forth. Instead of having a week where you could have rested a lot of guys, look forward to the next week after that. Now, you got to put it all on the line. It's not easy to come back from Ravens-Steelers games the next week. And that's what both those teams will be having to do.
And I don't think it's easy to come back from this loss. I don't care what they say in the locker room, and I asked every one of these guys, is it easy to turn the page after a loss like this? This was a disappointing loss. They all thought they were going to win this game. This is that hat and T-shirt game where they were going to wrap up the division. Well, that didn't happen, and now you're facing your arch rival, the team that beats you up more than any other team. And you see the records are probably almost identical right now. It's always a 3-point game, usually around there. You know it's going to be a hard-fought game, and it's going to come down to the end in this one. And it's going to be a coin flip, I think, in this game. And that's what really worries me, because they could have wrapped it up today. And I felt like if the Ravens didn't lose to the Packers and the Steelers lost this game, it didn't feel right for me for next weekend against the Ravens.
Well, here's the other thing, too. You got T.J. Watt, who's been out now for 3 straight weeks. I would assume he's back. You've been over at that place to watch his practices. If he's practicing, I think he's got clearance to do that. Yeah. Will he play in this game? And if so, how effective will he be after?
I think he's going to play. He was there in Cleveland today. He was out on the field for pregame. He was on the sidelines for the entire game. Looked like, and he practiced this week. Alex Highsmith even alluded to that. They're hoping to get T.J. Watt. He thinks he's going to be back. I think he's going to be back. And in a game like this, you would think if he's even 85 or 90% and there wasn't any health risk, he's going to play. The problem is on the other side of the ball, no DK Metcalf again, and now no Darnell Washington. So you're missing another key piece. And if you don't get Austin back, what are you down to? So you're going to have Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek, and Roman Wilson.
See,
remember, Mike Tomlin hyped him up all week, saying this is his opportunity. Well, what did he do today?
He wasn't hardly on the field.
Hardly.
He was there at the end a little bit, but they never targeted him, in my looking back at that. So that's a guy who I thought would get an opportunity, given all of these injuries.
Me too.
And he didn't get it at all. All right, when we come back, we'll continue our discussion. This time we're going to talk a little bit about what the Pirates have done. And should they do more? They've gotten some hype about this acquisition they made, but what else lies ahead for the Pirates? We'll get into that and more right after this on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, it's called a hot stove, and it's normally not hot at all for the Pirates, but this year so far they've made moves. A big deal getting Brandon Lau, who is a home run hitter at second base, 2-time All-Star, as well as Mangum and Montgomery in that deal. And then they bring in Ryan O'Hearn on a 2-year free agent contract. Rich, it sounds like they finally are doing stuff that I think we all thought they would do last year in this time, because they knew what Paul Skeens was. Paul Skeens had a Cy Young Award win, and they still finished in last place. So they had to do it, and they had to do it quickly. Is this enough, however? And what are your thoughts about those two moves?
You know, I don't think it's enough. Like you said, I think they should have done something similar to this last year, and they didn't. I think the Paul Skeens effect put pressure on this front office. I think Ben Cherington is feeling the pressure. Bob Nutting is feeling the pressure from the fans. You got to go out and spend money. You're not going to be a real contender unless you start spending $100 million, and they have to get to that threshold, I think. So I cannot believe O'Hearn is the first multi-year free agent that they signed since Ivan Nova back in 2016. That's ridiculous that they haven't signed anyone since then for a multi-year. They're all the Tommy Phams of the world.
Right. 1 year, $4 million, 2 years, or 1 year, $3 million. This is the first multi-year. Yeah.
Basically,
long overdue.
The best guy that you need to get going is O'Neal Cruz. You already got a star on your team. You need bats around him. And that's what Lau's going to do, right? That's what O'Hearn could do. That might get Brian Reynolds to go. I think you need one more bat. They need to go out and get another bat. And I don't know if you can get a third baseman now. I think that Japanese guy still might be.
Well,
yeah,
he's
Eugenio
Suarez is a guy who had 49
is still out
home
there.
runs.
You need a third baseman.
And he's doing it for like $15 million.
Triolo, I don't think is the answer. He's a good utility guy, but if you're going to have Lau at second, Gonzalez at short now, and then you need a third baseman still, and you need another bat in your lineup. So why don't you go out and get, then fans will believe. Then guys like me would have Bucko fever again, and you, Bob, would be down there all the time, right? You want to. What happened here in 2013, 14, and 15?
Whatsoever.
No, you and I. It was exciting, wasn't it? We were there at every single game. Doesn't the front office or the ownership want something like that again?
The Skeens window is closing.
It is closing, and it's closing quickly because they're not going to be able to re-sign this guy. So you have about 2 more years to go out and do something. And you got to go out and maybe get another bat, maybe another bullpen
All right,
arm.
let me ask you this then. Connor Griffin seems to be ready. Now, you mentioned Gonzalez. That's their plan. It appears right now that he will be at shortstop to start. I think everyone knows that Connor Griffin will be up here at some point.
Yeah.
Why not make it the start of the season? I think he's shown that he is very much a guy who can come around. He's a unicorn sort of guy.
Yeah.
Somebody you look at and you say, he's ready for this right now.
Not many guys can go from Double-A, I think, to the majors and be successful, but I think he can. I was getting to that. I do. I agree with you. What do you got to lose? Bring him up, see what he does in spring training, and make him your everyday starter at shortstop. He's a proven hitter. He hasn't been to AAA yet, but something similar happen with Brian Reynolds, if you look at it. I think he might have played a handful of games in AAA before they brought him up, but he was mainly a Double-A player.
Right.
And so
Trevor Jones as a pitcher went from Double-A to the majors. They saw a lot in him.
I have a feeling that the Pirates are going to use this. Say we're going to start him in AAA, and it's going to be May or at some point, and then they're going to bring him up. I think you need to get some excitement about this team right now. There isn't any. Maybe there's some. You're gaining some traction and optimism with the trades and the free agent signing, but I don't think it's enough yet. You're not there yet. If you bring Connor Griffin up, then there would be some real excitement, no matter what he did. Even if he starts out batting 220, 230, right? It's still a star that's up here. You
absolutely need to do it, and I think people would go crazy if he brought in Suarez. You can tell me all you want, he's going to hit 197, but he hits 49 home runs. I'll take that every time. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Pitt. Lost another bowl game in which they were 12-point favorites. We'll get into that and more next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Hey, I want to remind you, #1 Cochran is making spirits bright with their best savings of 2025. During the year-end wrap-up, you're going to get thousands off MSRP on select models. You're going to find super low lease payments as well and take advantage of the most attractive finance rates you're going to find anywhere. And we got 20 new car brands at #1 Cochran, a vehicle for every budget and lifestyle. Hurry in for year-end wrap-up now at #1 Cochran, all their locations. Online, it's Cochran.com. Talking about Pitt, and boy, of all things, they go to a game. It looks like they opted out mentally for this game. They were 12-point favorites against East Carolina, a team that Rich did not have its starting quarterback, starting running back, best wide receiver, 2 guys from their defensive front, and both coordinators all got new jobs on the left. And yet ECU won the game. How does that happen consistently with Pitt, it seems?
I remember Narduzzi said at halftime that it looks like that they haven't practiced their 28 days or haven't played in 28 days. There's no question about it. For the second straight year, they lost to a group of 5 team. This is embarrassing if you're Pitt. You know, Pitt was in the running for an ACC championship up until what? The last
they
week
met the
or
big boys,
second,
Miami,
yes,
Notre Dame.
the second to last week.
They couldn't deal with
you beat Georgia Tech, and then you have a shot. You know, people were talking about playoff. Well, if you can't beat ECU, you should not be in the college or in the conversation for a college football playoff, and they didn't do it. Last year, they lose to Toledo. That was embarrassing. This year, even more embarrassing. I don't know what it is. You don't have Desmond Reed. You don't have a couple guys. But I can tell you this, that loss didn't do anything for Mason Heinchel, and a lot of Pitt fans are worried about him going somewhere else or someone throwing money at him, but I don't know if that money is going to be as high after a performance like that. So I'm hoping that he'll stay. The grass isn't greener on the other side all the time, except for when you're talking about money, right? But I think he looks and feels comfortable in that offense, and he likes Cade Bell.
Plus, and he's a true freshman. And again, I don't know that people come after this year with the kind of money he may be looking for. Pitt knows that they have Eli Holsting probably on the way out. They could use whatever money for him. Then next year, if he has a good year, watch out. That's when the Sharks will be coming. That's when they'll be swimming around Pitt and saying, we want Mason Heinchel.
Good win by Penn State, though.
It was.
I wish Pitt and Penn State would have played in the Pinstripe Bowl.
That's how it should have been.
It should have been.
Penn State was boring as can be. A lot of these, now with opt-outs, it's really boring. We're going to take a break, come back with more as we continue here with the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We do this show every Sunday night. Don't be a stranger at 11:35. All right, that's going to wrap it up for our show. Rich, look forward to doing this again. Thanks for coming back.
Maybe next week, right?
Yeah, maybe next week. Who knows what it's going to be like. All I know is the Steelers and Ravens will go at it. We'll get you covered all week long on KDKA-TV, and we'll see what happens next week. But it's winner take all, Steelers and Ravens. Thanks for joining us. Happy New Year. We'll see you next week.